What's up, everyone? This is Bobby Douglas, and welcome to another video. Today, we are joined once again by esteemed college basketball bettor and analyst Christian Odjakjian. You can find him at OdjHoops on X. Christian, how are you? Thanks so much for doing this. I think we have a pretty fun video today. I'll explain it after you give your little intro for those who maybe didn't watch the last episode with us when we were covering the Sweet 16 games back in last year's tournament. So if you want to say anything to the listeners, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bobby. Had a lot of fun last time. Love the way you built your channel and the way you approach the game. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun talking about these teams today.
I agree. So today, what I want to do. So there's this concept called the Magic 8, and basically what it is, Sports Illustrated started a column about 25 years ago-ish, where one of the writers goes through every single team in the tournament or every single team in the country and picks 8 teams. And guarantees that one of them will win the NCAA tournament. I've done videos on this in the past, but this year I kind of wanted to switch it up a little bit just because it got stale just picking, 8 of the better teams in the country every year. So what I want to do this year, I want for Christian and I to go back and forth and draft these teams. So in total, there will be 16 teams that we talk about, and at the end, we'll each have our own Magic 8. So yeah, we could go, I think we discussed it off air that I'll have the first pick just because it lines up better with what we want to talk about. So I want to make sure that's out there so that way I don't seem like an ungracious host. By
just flip the coin.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we're each going to take 8 teams and basically guarantee that one of them wins a national championship. Obviously teams 9 through 16 aren't going to be like world beaters and we're going to have some uncomfortable picks, but, I think this is kind of a fun way to look at who are the real contenders as we head into conference play and the NCAA tournament. The only rule is that one of them must be outside. One of the teams that we pick must be outside of the current top 15 of the AP poll. Based on what I saw today, I don't think that'll be an issue for either of us. I like a lot of teams that are currently outside the top 15. Yeah. So that's basically the rundown. I guess I'll get started since we don't have a ton of time here. I know you got a basketball game in a little bit. Also, I just want to ask, what would you say your college player comp is? Because I have mine locked and loaded. I'm curious to see who you play like.
Man, I've given myself so many of these over the years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm like a super high motor, undersized 2 guard who doesn't like to shoot threes.
Interesting.
I like to shoot mid-range shots and defensive rebound, and be just an absolute menace on defense because I'm just not a great three-point shooter. Jamarius Burton is a name that I've thrown out there before.
Wow. Okay. I was not expecting.
Super random. But
all right, Jamarius Burton, I can respect that.
And when or in my NBA comp, I'll give myself Chris Dunn.
Oh, I love Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn is in my Douglas elite class of like 12 college players that I absolutely adored. So, okay, I like that. For the record, mine is Gibson Jimerson from St. Louis. That's exactly who I am. I run around a bunch of screens and shoot threes. Basically kind of like again, undersized 2 guard, doesn't really handle the ball a whole lot, but yeah. And if I wanted to compliment myself even further, I would say I am Cam Spencer, but without the motor, Okay. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I love it.
Okay. So
I'll probably think of a better comp for myself later on. So
listen, I was not even expecting Jamarius Burton, but you know what? I'm here for that. I don't even know, this is a solely college basketball channel. I'm not even sure if half the listeners would even know who that is. So that's like a really deep
He was pretty good. He was pretty good that last year.
He was good. Yeah. Okay. So let's start. I have the first pick. I'm going to take Auburn, which apparently you weren't even considering with the first overall pick. For me, I watched this team in Maui, and I just immediately declared them as my national champion. So it would take something very catastrophic for me to change that at this point. However, something catastrophic may have just happened because Janai Broome obviously rolls his ankle, and we don't know how long he's going to be out for. They say he doesn't need surgery, but to me, that doesn't really seem like a ringing endorsement of he's going to be back soon. Whenever you're ruling out surgery as like your first thing, that gets me a little bit nervous. But assuming he's back and healthy for the tournament, right? I look at Auburn; they have one of the best offenses ever in the metrics era, right? We're not talking; they're clearly far and ahead as the #1 overall offense in the country. But we're talking about like elite all-time level offense. It starts with Janai Broome because he's so versatile. He can finish around the basket. He's a great offensive rebounder. He can pass. He can step out and shoot the three, even though that's not really his main source of offense. But he's kind of the focal point But then what I really like about Auburn, and this dates back to preseason, they have a bunch of shooters with size, whether it be Chad Baker-Mazara, Denver Jones, Miles Kelly. And what also stood out to me, the last few years, Auburn teams have been criticized heavily for their backcourt and their decision-making, right? This year, they are one of the best teams in the country at not turning the ball over. I think their turnover rate is around 13.3%, which is very, very up there nationally. And they're doing this without really a true point guard. I mean, they brought in JP Pegues from Furman, right? And he was supposed to be the guy who runs the show, but he doesn't really factor much into the rotation. It's really been Denver Jones, and then when Tahad Pettiford comes in off the bench, he's kind of running the show. But all five of these guys out there can really shoot typically outside of Dylan Cardwell, but mainly they're all smart decision makers, and I don't think Auburn's had that level of personnel in a really long time. I think you have to go back to maybe the 2019 Final Four team. And so obviously their defense is still very good because Broome is just one of the better rim protectors in the country, and they have guys that'll get after you with their ball pressure. But really it's the shooting with size and it's the decision making that sets this Auburn team apart from the previous ones. And that's why I still think, given how good they've looked in the non-conference season, going back to Maui and things like that, I think they are still the national championship favorite, even though the Janai Broome injury kind of casts a cloud over that right now. So they will be my number one overall pick. Again, if you want to add anything to that, because I know you were going to go a different direction.
Yeah, you summed it up well. They've definitely been the most impressive team to date. I agree with that. I loved Miles Kelly at Georgia Tech, so I love that addition. He's been a perfect fit. He's the guy. He's such a good shooter. You want him to be taking that many threes. I feel like in past years, it's like, why are Katie Johnson, Donaldson, or Wendell Green? Like, I don't want them taking that many threes. But like Miles Kelly, like, fire away, bro. Tahad Pettiford is nice. He reminds me of Jeff Teague. He also looks like him in the face.
Yeah, but he does.
Smooth operator, really good shooter, and like big balls to take over that Houston game, like right at the beginning of his freshman year. And then Randolph Chill just made a nice video for Field 68 talking about this action that Auburn runs with the side ball screen with the shooter popping up. And like, because Broome is so good and so hard to stop one-on-one, and he's been around his fifth year, right? Like, he's just been such a good college player. I feel bad for him because he probably had a really good shot at Player of the Year if he stayed healthy. But I think it reminds me a little bit of, and this is not apples to apples, of him to Klingon, but I love what that did for UConn last year, of when they had to throw Samson Johnson into more minutes and change their identity. If they didn't have their dominant force on the interior there, and how can we work around that? I thought that really sharpened UConn for later in the season. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for Auburn, and they're really freaking good.
That's a very good point. Not to harp on it too much, because we gotta speed through these a little bit, but two things on Janai Broome. That's a very good comp with the Klingon thing, because basically the way I'm looking at it, at full strength, Auburn has kind of shown me who they are and that they can just win the tournament and beat anybody. The second thing, though, just to I always kind of picture Janai Broome. Have you seen the Bench Warmers?
No.
Okay, so Carlos. Okay. So basically, to make it quick, there's this guy Carlos. They bring him in, and it's like a little league baseball tournament, right? But this guy's like a 40-year-old, and he just throws gas, and then he hands the umpire a thing, and it's written in green crayon, and it says "I am 12" with a $20 bill in it. So then he's allowed to play in this little league tournament, right? And the point of this is, Janai Broome looks so much like someone who shouldn't be allowed to play college basketball. Like, even in the shoulders, he's so big, right? And he looks like he just has the game on a string, which is rare for someone as a big, right? Usually it's the guards controlling tempo, but Janai Broome is so good at maintaining pace, kind of just like controlling the game and just not making a ton of mistakes. So I just think he looks way too good to be playing college basketball. So the Carlos from the Benchwarmers thing has always kind of stuck out to me. Anyway, Kristen, you're up with the second overall selection. Auburn is off the board. Who are you going with for your first overall pick?
Final note, there's been really good juju in since Virginia won the title, of teams losing in the first round and winning the title the next year. That always is going to be on your mind when that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, y'all, anyone who knows me knows I went to Wake Forest. You see that right there? I've never liked Duke even before I went to Wake Forest, but I have to concede, Duke usually makes it really easy to hate them, but this is a likable team, man. Like, Cooper Flagg doesn't have any of the obnoxious traits of a typical Duke superstar.
No, yeah.
He plays the game the right way, and I know everyone's heard that a zillion times, but the more I watch it, when he picks his spots to be aggressive, how unselfish he is. It doesn't even, he'll be 5 for 5 from the field. He'll catch the ball at the 3-point line. He could take that three. He just, you know what I'm saying? I can tell he played a lot of 2K. Like that's the joke I make. You can just tell some of these guys that the game just feels so natural to them. I like to say like maybe they played a lot of 2K. Like it's just so automatic to him what to do. But it's not just him. Duke crafted this roster very well. I know Malik Brown got hurt, but he's one of the best glue guys in the country. Mason Gillis, been around for forever, can hit his threes, can defend, can talk. This team is super switchable on the perimeter. They have a better shot blocker than Cooper Flagg, which is just insane. He's like
they might have two.
Mark Williams.
They might have two better shot blockers. Malik Brown, he's hurt, but like, he's a stud too. But anyway, sorry.
Anyways, I saw a crazy Cooper Flagg stat of got like in terms of offensive box plus minus and defensive blocks plus minus. Like his comparisons, the only guys in his range are Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Davis, Chet Holmgren, Evan Mobley, Zion Williamson. Like he's in elite company. And my one concern with them earlier in the season was in some of those, it wasn't the late game execution. It was tied to that. It was more in the second half. Like it's like, why is Knipple going? I always mess up his name. Why is he going ISO? Like,
yes,
we got Tyrese Proctor on this team. Like we got plenty of guys. Like Zion James has been playing really well. Like, why are we doing this with Con Knipple? Like, lately though, I haven't seen this as much. There's been much more intention. Like everyone has. You have the shooting, and you know it's just like they did this against Notre Dame. Your boys. Like, if it's working with Flagg, let's do it again and again and again. Because that's what bothered me with the Boncaro team. Paulo Boncaro is my spicy take. I think he's gonna be the best player in the NBA in 3 years. I think he's so good. And when I would watch Duke with the Boncaro team, I'm like, stop shooting threes, Trevor Keels. Like Jeremy Roach, stop going ISO. Like, you have Paulo Boncaro, you know?
This isn't Paul the 6th high school, guys. Come on, figure it out.
But this team, I feel like, it has the unselfishness, and they're not settling. And I don't know if this is a Coach K. Shire thing or if it's just the personnel, but, like, I feel like this team just doesn't piss me off with their shot selection. Like, that team, I know they made the Final Four, but, like, I always felt like they weren't playing as well as they should have. Like, I never was satisfied with that team. And this team reminds me much more of the Tyus Jones, Justice Winslow, Joe Okafor team, where it's like there was just much more intention. Even the Marvin Bagley, Wendell Carter team, I'm like,
yeah,
you can't stop these two guys. Marvin Bagley was insane. Wendell Carter was insane. You have two top 10 post players. Why is Gary Trent Jr., who I know has been a very good pro, but he was not a good college player in my opinion, why is he taking 8 threes a game? All that to say, this team plays much better. The pieces fit. They've got vets. They've got young guys. They've got talented guys that barely even play. There's good juju in Duke right now. It's hard not to take.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Just another thing on Cooper Flagg. I believe he is still leading Duke in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals per game, which is just crazy. Stupid. It's ridiculous. I don't even know who else has done that, if anybody. I'm sure there are people, elsewhere, but I don't remember ever seeing someone do that for an entire season. So good pick. It wouldn't have been my pick though. I would have gone with Iowa State. And for me, Iowa State this year. So I went into this season not obviously respecting Iowa State based on their performances last year, but still not really taking them as a Final Four candidate seriously just because I wasn't sure how their offense was going to look. But this year, they have the 10th best offense in the country. They're playing faster. And they have two guys who have taken a massive creation leap in Keyshawn Gilbert and Curtis Jones. Keyshawn Gilbert, I believe, is leading this team in assists. And usually you would think that's Tamin Lipsey. And if he's not leading it, they're very close, right? So Tamin Lipsey, obviously, the issue with him, he's a great defender, great passer, everything, right? The issue with him is that he just wasn't a scoring threat. But now, Keyshawn Gilbert, you're seeing him take more of an on-ball role, and that has really facilitated Iowa State's offense to another level, right? The fact that he's able to get downhill and attack, and he's not even shooting that well from three, but he just gives Iowa State so much more juice offensively that all of a sudden, now you're looking at a team with a top 10 offense and a top 15 defense. Top 15 defense, by the way, which should get better as the season goes on because they started off kind of slow on that end. And then obviously Curtis Jones, who is coming off the bench, by the way, he's this team's leading scorer. And he's just crazy. He has these crazy takeover games. We saw it against Texas Tech, where I think he had 26 and was basically Iowa State's only option offensively. And then obviously Tamin Lipsey, who has been better, but still I have concerns about scoring the ball. This team reminds me a little bit, though, of 2021 Baylor in that they have three guards who can all kind of create a little bit. and just don't really seem phased by any road environment. Like, we saw them get down early at Iowa, they come back and win. Get down early at Texas Tech, they come back and win. They don't have like the Mark Vital type of player, right? But they have so many good, versatile defenders. The guards really get into you on the perimeter. Joshua Jefferson is really good. Is kind of like a toolsy swingman on defense. And then, Deshaun Jackson, he's good. I'm not sure if he's like Robert Jones level defensively, but he's very solid, like in his own right? And this is all to say, like, they had a freshman last year averaging over 10 points a game, and I feel like I haven't even heard about him, and he's been forgotten about. Milan Momcilovic has had a very quiet year given where he was last year, and he's just another guy that can come in and stretch the floor and make shots, right? And so Iowa State, I think retaining their entire core has been really beneficial for them, and now they're just kind of – it's very clear that they are way more comfortable in year 2, year 3 under Otzelberger. And they look like a well-oiled machine right now. I think the togetherness, the cohesiveness really makes them a contender. And like the offense is really good. The defense is really good. There's really no major concerns with them unless I would say, unless one of Curtis Jones or Keyshawn Gilbert just isn't hitting shots, but that can happen to anybody in the country, right? So I would take those guys over a lot of these other teams in the country, and that's why I have Iowa State here as my number 3 overall pick, number 2 pick for me personally.
What I love about Iowa State this year is it's like, what's not to like? There were times last year where I just refused to fully believe that they were Final Four caliber because it just hurt my eyes to watch them play offense, and that is so gone. I'm not sure how much of it is correlated to the pace. I personally like the pace because I also feel like this team still has in their bag, will beat you 58-52. Like, we'll see when they play a Houston or a Cincinnati how gross it will get. But you're right, Curtis Jones and Gilbert, like, we knew they were capable last year. We're like, these guys are pretty good, but now it's like these guys are really, really good. Like that was very impressive what Curtis Jones did, and Keyshawn Gilbert has just a lot of pop off the bounce. Lipsy is such a bulldog. It bothers me when the national media like tries to make him seem like the star of this team because he's so great, but it's like this is a by committee backcourt. Like these guys, it's so balanced. Similar to kind of that Baylor team. It's like when they would do that with Jared Butler, I'm like, yo, are you seeing what Davion Mitchell's doing? Davion Mitchell might be better. But point is, like Momcilovic, too, such a good offensive player. And I don't know if I agree on the Mark Vital point, because to me it looks like they got 3 Mark Vitals.
That's fair.
Big thick boys just bringing the energy. So I would say it would have been my number 3, too.
Okay. All right. So you're up at 4. Who are you going with?
Roll Tide.
Ooh, okay, good.
Give me Alabama. To people who are NBA fans and aren't really into college basketball, they're like, the shooting's not good enough, blah, blah, blah. Watch Alabama because they play like an NBA team. They have NBA talent. Jaren Stevenson and LeBaron Philon are arguably not in their 3 best players. You could argue Philon is. But those are NBA players. I still think it wouldn't shock me if Mark Sears carves out some type of NBA role, but you have to play their pace. Like, there's just no way you can get them to play Alabama and for it to not be their pace. The way they crash the offensive glass, 11th in offensive rebounding. They're the second fastest team in the country, shooting 62% from 2 because of that spacing. All these guys can get downhill. You've got the big dunkers. I don't even think Cliff has played very well. Yeah, I still think there's sort of some growth for him. But like, it's just so deep. Like Chris Youngblood was like the best player on USF last year that like won 20 games in a row. And he's just like another guy they have. And like, this team was supposed to have Latrell Wrightsell too, who I really liked. It sucked that happened to him. I know Houston Millett is a little banged up. And I don't know. I know he like had the thing with his red shirt, but I haven't even said Aiden Holloway yet. Aiden Holloway's been playing out of his mind. I didn't like him at all last year at Auburn, and with the added spacing and with the confidence from Oates' system, he's a completely different player. I'm a huge fan of him too. This team is just ridiculously deep. They have the experience from last year. They're defending way better. They're up to 39th in KenPom defense, but it's more situationally. Like, my one concern with them is against Oregon and a little bit against A&M, like Biddle and Pharrell Payne, like, a little bit of lack of resistance on the interior, which surprises me because Cliff O'Mori was like the best guy to guard Zach Edey. I'm like, why can't you guard Nate Biddle? No disrespect to Nate Biddle, he's good. But the point is, Alabama is so fun to watch. There's NBA talent. Nate Oates has continued to just throw out these really good offensive teams every year. I love the confidence they play with. It's so summed up perfectly. The Mark Sears, again, 3. Really fun to watch. Can score a zillion points, and I think they're good enough defensively. I'm big on Alabama.
Yeah, okay, I like that pick, and it's also kind of cool because you mentioned the 2-point percentage, and I didn't really make that extra connection because I just see Bama shooting like a ton of threes, and they're only hitting around 32%. I'm just like, are we really doing this? But you make a really good point that because they're taking so many threes and because they can space the floor, it opens up everything inside, and then that leads to a very high percentage from 2. It actually is funny though. I mentioned I watched the Alabama-Oregon game, and in my notes I wrote Nate Biddle is comically large, like just flat out. I think he looks like a lumberjack out there, dude. He is so massive, but that's beside the point. But like I literally made a point like this guy is gigantic. So you're not alone on the Biddle thing. Yeah, Aiden Holloway, I think, has been a really big revelation, especially after kind of a disappointing Auburn year and unceremonious exit from Auburn with the whole Bruce Pearl thing. But yeah, Alabama's a very good pick here. I'm up at 5. I'm actually kind of surprised. So I'm going to get my top 3 ranked teams in the country in terms of national championship. I talked to you a little bit about this on X. I'm going to take the Houston Cougars here at 5. Houston, I have a whole bunch of things on Houston. So to start, they were my preseason national champ. And I don't think I've necessarily wavered off of that in the general sense that I like them a lot. I think Auburn would beat Houston, even though they played each other earlier. Auburn won. I think they would beat them again, assuming both teams are fully healthy. So you mentioned it on X. This is the best defense metrically under Kelvin Sampson, right? This is also, however, the best 3-point shooting team under Kelvin Sampson. Usually a Houston team is in the mid-30s at best from 3, right? This year, though, they have 2 elite shooters in LJ Cryer and Emmanuel Sharp. And here's a little nugget. So I went on, I have a friend who has Synergy, luckily. And I asked him, like, hey, can you pull up, like, the catch and shoot numbers for Houston? Here's something that's very interesting. 60% of Houston's catch and shoot threes are unguarded. So that means they are getting a ton of wide open 3-point shots. Okay. And the reason for this is because what do analysts always say on TV? When's the best time to shoot a 3? After an offensive rebound. Houston is one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country, and they get a ton of wide open kick-out threes. And when you have 2 guys like Cryer and Sharp who can just bomb, right, you're getting a really good look every single time down the floor virtually. The issue with Houston, and why I'm a little bit low, why I waited to take them 5th, I'm not sure they can really generate offense outside of offensive rebounding. It's always a thing like, oh, Houston's best offense is missing shots. I'm not sure they have the downhill creation ability to get defenses in rotation in half-court settings, and that worries me if they hit a rut offensively, right? Ideally, you want Milos Uzan to be that guy who can get downhill and kind of create easy looks for teammates, but I'm not fully confident in his ability to do that, even though he's had a pretty decent year for Houston, and especially LJ Cryer and Emmanuel Sharp. They do not attempt shots at the rim, like at all. They are all their shots are pretty much from 3 or from long 2, but they are they are not good at getting downhill and getting to the rim. So that worries me a little bit. But then on the defensive end, though, like you can beat anybody with the way they play defense. They've only given up 70 or more points twice this year, and both of those games were in overtime. Outside of that, they're in 40 minutes. The only team that I think has scored over 60 against them is Auburn, who, again, we just talked about is the best offense we've seen in years. They have guys who just fly all over the place. JoJo Tugler is a stud. Jawan Roberts is really good. JVA Francis off the bench. Terrence Arsenault is another really long wing who actually offers you some self-creation upside as a scorer. And so overall, I just really like this Houston team. I think they defend at a kick-ass level. And then the 3-point shooting, Kelvin Sampson hasn't gotten the opportunity to work with such a high-level 3-point shooting team. And so I think that kind of extends the ceiling for them even further. So that's my case for Houston. I'm not totally out on them yet. They would be my 3rd overall ranked team, but I'm taking them 5th overall in this. Houston like this could be like the number 3 team in the country. Like they had Auburn, they were up in that game, and then you lost twice in overtime. The 3-point shooting thing is insane. Like they're shooting 42% from deep. Like my boy Emmanuel Sharp, who I understand his deficiencies,
He's shooting 49% from three, and he launches it from his hip. He doesn't miss. I want him in the NBA. He guards his ass off. And I love this team's depth, too. Like you mentioned Arsenal. Like I like when Malik Wilson comes in. Ramon Walker might be coming back, too. But, I mean, Francis, Roberts, and Tugler, like, it's just the machine keeps stomping. It doesn't matter who's there for Kelvin Sampson. Like, Roberts is, like, the heart and soul of the guy who's been there the longest. But, like, I think the one knock on Houston's national perception is just, like, general fatigue to what Houston is in the same way that Tennessee might feel it. It's like, or Auburn, like, I've seen this before. Like, Auburn's broke that this year, but it's like, okay, I get it. Houston's really good defensively, like, but the one key thing with Houston for me is, other than when they lost to Miami, because Miami was just on God mode and couldn't miss a shot, they're never healthy for the tournament. They've never been healthy. It's been Marcus Sasser. It's been somebody. Last year was everybody, and then Shed got hurt against Duke. If they're healthy for the tournament, like, you know they're going to make the Sweet 16. They're going to walk to the Sweet 16, and, like, if they're healthy, I think they can find enough offense. And last year, even with, like, Shed, I love Shed, but it's not like it was, like, pretty last year with them offensively, and they were smoking everybody when they were healthy. Like, I'm a huge believer on Houston. Also, really quick, I love betting. I don't know why my hand is black, so I got to figure out what's going on. This has happened to me the other day. I haven't figured out why my hands are turning black. It's something in my I look like I fucking
Oh geez, yeah. It's like
I'm just gonna ignore. I don't know what. I have no idea what this is. Is it my mic? Is it my headphones? I don't know. There's a lot of black things it could be.
It is weird,
yeah. This has been a mystery I've been trying to solve for a week. It's just I feel really dumb that I haven't been able to figure it out, and now I can't even take myself serious. I'm keeping my hands low. Okay. What was the last thing?
Houston. You said one last. Oh, betting wise for Houston, what was it?
Oh yeah, I got Houston at 14-1 this summer. These are all free bets. Shout out DraftKings. I got Auburn at 30-1. I got Iowa State. Iowa State was a late out. I got them at 16-1. And my number 6 team, I got at 60-1, and that's the Florida freaking Gators. I love Florida. Walter Clayton might be my favorite player in college. I just love the way he operates out there. My son's going to hate him because he's going to have to watch a lot of Walter Clayton film when he's ready for it. This might be a random connection. I don't know why he reminds me of him. He just reminds me of Shabazz Napier a little bit. I don't know, and I don't really have a reason for it. He just does. I love Alex Condon. They call him Condo. He was on my radar last year when he came off the bench. I'm like, this dude is impactful on both ends. And I just love the Todd Golden vision of, we have our three-point shooters. You know, every offensive possession is with intention. They're defending at such a higher level now. They protect the rim. They bring in Chinyelu, who was like such a to me at Washington State this year, and all of a sudden he's like really impactful. Thomas Hawk comes off the bench and plays really hard and cuts to the basket and hits threes. Like, Denzel Aberdeen's a really talented guard. Elijah Martin is fitting perfectly. Him and Richard and Clayton is a veteran backcourt with three-point shooting of good decision makers. The Todd Golden being a creeper thing. Like,
it's tough for me to root for
past
him.
The news cycle, like, I don't know what the deal is with that, but if he's there and I don't know what to think of that. It's always weird. Like, after the Terrence Shannon thing, I'm like, it's just hard for me. I don't know what to do, and I'm like, is this guy a scumbag that I shouldn't root for, or is he getting screwed? I don't know. So it's just an awkward position for the audience. But I love the way Florida takes shots, and the fact that they lost Micah, Tyree Samuel, Riley Kugel, and Zion Pullen, and just reloaded and got so much better defensively, and kept the same thing going offensively. They're so fun to watch. They're so purposeful. They're going to be so battle tested because the SEC is so ridiculous. And I'm a fan. And it's a guard. We know it's a guard dominated sport, but when you have that balance of dominance on the interior at the rim and protecting the rim, but this much 3-point shooting, guard creation, like, really good team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Florida. They're so fun to watch. And also, like you mentioned, like the inside out thing, but also, like, I think Clayton and Martin specifically, their styles complement each other so well, because Clayton's a very much more like perimeter oriented, like he'll shoot from anywhere, really quick release, and like awesome dribble moves, hesitations, right? And then Martin will just like run right into you and like go and score. And then he could also hit like 40% of his threes. So like that's a really good combo to have. I'll go next at 7, and I'm gonna hang on. Let me pull up the AP poll really quick to make sure they are outside the top 15, because that matters for this specific pick, I think they fell out this week because they lost to. Yes, here we go. Okay, so my outside the top 15 pick is going to be Illinois at 7. So I went into the season hating Illinois just because I didn't really know what the freshmen were going to be like, and I just kind of like was skeptical of that. In fact, to tell myself here, I thought Northwestern was going to be better than Illinois, and in a way I was right because Northwestern beat Illinois, but then also in many other ways I was wrong because Illinois is like way better than, they're like a title team. So it all starts with Kasper Odjakjian. I think he's a stud. And what I didn't really account for was how good of a shooter he was going to be, because I knew about like the passing and the pick and roll creation, but he is just a lights out shooter, man. Like, oh my God, off the dribble, between the legs, step backs, do whatever you want, out of ball screens, catch and shoot. Like, he is so good as a shooter, and that opens up everything else, right? He can get downhill, he can pass. The turnovers with him are a little bit of an issue, but they seem more like he's forcing it rather than him just not being able to control it. They also loaded up on key veteran transfers, right? Ben Humrickhouse looked like he would be out of the rotation at this point early in the season, and he's been on a heater recently. Trey White's a really good kind of like two-way knockdown shooter type of guy. And the main one, though, is Kylan Boswell. I liked Kylan Boswell a lot at Arizona, but I always thought he was kind of miscast as a primary point guard. And now he is the perfect complement for Kasparis as someone who can take the pressure off of him, running the offense, but then also guarding the team's best perimeter scorer, right? Getting downhill and kind of making the right basketball play. He can hit open shots that Kasparis kind of creates for him. And so I think Kylan Boswell, he's kind of been like the big brother and just like the maturity guy for this offense and this defense generally. And so I think the addition of him has really bolstered Illinois to another level that I wasn't really sure of preseason, but now I'm definitely all in on the Illini. So I'm going to take them, and they're going to be my outside the top 15 pick here at 7 overall.
Kasparis is literally Luka Doncic in college. Like I had no I was at that's where I met you at that Northwestern game, and he was hitting those step back threes, and I was like, I didn't know he could do this too. Like,
he had like 5 of them in the second half. Yeah, it was crazy.
Dude, Kylan Boswell, I go back and forth every time. I'm like, okay, he's fully turned the corner. He's a stud. And then I'm like, what are we doing? He can't hit a shot, and he's like doing stupid things. He's shooting 27% on the year. I think he is a great compliment to Kasparis, but I just want to see it more consistently from him. I feel like he's never, whenever I start to really buy in on him the past couple of years, he does something piss me off. Will Riley is just, oozing potential. I know, but he looks so young out there. We saw him drop 30 like right when the start of the season. I'm like, okay, he's here, and it's like he's not fully here yet. My one concern, while on one hand I'm like incredibly impressed with Brad Underwood's ability to bring in an all-new roster, his ability to coach offensively these past few years, how, at Stephen F. Austin, he's like a turn-you-over defensive coach, and now he's like a drop coverage, take tough shots, like force on assisted baskets kind of coach. I still just have a little bit of mistrust in him because of what in the UConn game. I thought that there was an X's and O's way that they could have taken advantage of UConn a bit better with Klingon and having Hawkins at the 5, and like from me on my couch, I thought there were things they could have done from X and O perspective, and I saw some other people agreeing with me. And I'm like, if he blocks 100, he blocks 100. Had a little bit of arrogance that I didn't like, and that doesn't sit well with me. He admitted after the USC game, we dipped from our scout after Des Claude's first couple of possessions. We didn't like the matchup when we switched it up, and then we weren't prepared. And like, I don't. You know what I'm saying? At least he admitted it, but there's just something a little bit. I just have a tiny bit of mistrust of him if he's a little too stubborn to adjust. Is my one knock on Illinois.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. All right, you're up.
I have 2 teams I'm signing for. I'm going to go with who I don't think you're going to take. I'll take Kentucky.
Damn, good pick. I
love Mark Pope, man. I was all over BYU last year. I thought BYU could have made the Final Four last year. They got their asses kicked by Duquesne because the Egyptian magician was fasting and he didn't know which way was up and down, and Duquesne was on a heater. But I don't know why Kentucky is so low in Ken Pom. I understand that they're 87th in defensive efficiency, but like, I'm talking from like a dog perspective. They got dogs on defense in Butler and Owe. Andrew Carr's a good shot blocker. Amari Williams is tough. Like, there's no reason to me why they can't be a good defensive team and get better as the season progresses. Like, even when Mark Pope had all the skinny white boys at BYU, like they defended their asses off and they rebounded the basketball well. They're not turning anybody over. They're like bottom 20 in the country in force numbers, but they take care of the ball so well. They're number 2 in the country and taking care of it. That maxed out. But I just love a team, man, that can beat you with every single player. Like Jackson Robinson goes crazy against Mississippi State. It was Kirk Crease and Andrew Carr earlier in that Duke game. Lamont Butler has hit a freaking game winner in the Final Four before. Otega Owe was, a really good guard last year for Oklahoma, and I like to see him continuing to grow. And Kobe, I didn't even say Kobe Bray. How many teams can just have the best three-point shooter in the country say, we don't really need you this game, like play 14 minutes. Yeah. Balanced. They did such a good job of building this roster. Old Kentucky fans are so lucky that they don't have to deal with Coach Cal anymore.
Yeah.
I believe the offense is so good. Like the shooting, the way they play together is just so elite. And then defensively, I'm not super worried about it because I feel like they have the cats. Like the same way Alabama situationally could get stops on their run last year, Kentucky, I think, projects as an even better defensive team. So I'm all in on the Cats. I think they're legit.
Yeah, that was my big thing because I was also kind of confused. Why are they so low defensively? And just like anecdotally, just watching them, like they have 2 of the best big play defenders in the backcourt with Owe and Butler. Like those 2 guys are just studs. So I'm with you. I think they kind of just like figure it out defensively and they're just good situationally. And obviously the offense, they're all so good cutting, moving without the ball, passing, shooting. Like they can do whatever they want. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Kentucky. I'll go next at 9. So, okay. So I'm going to take, all right. I'll take Marquette here. Obviously I think Cam Jones is just a stud, even though he's kind of dipped off a little bit recently when it comes to his rim finishing, but I think he'll get that figured out. He's just the offensive engine here. There's like a 30-point per possession difference, or points per 100 possession difference with him on versus him off. So the way you beat Marquette is either get him in foul trouble or just kind of send everything at him, right? So I think what worries me about Marquette is that there seems to be a very clear path to beat them. But at the same time, Cam Jones is just so good at getting to his spots that I'm not sure it matters, right? If he's on the floor, he's just going to be so good at all 3 levels that I'm not sure what you can really do to stop him. Also, I think Marquette's defense is way better than what the numbers suggest. And what the numbers suggest is that they're a top 25 defense anyway. But I think the way they are so disruptive, they have the fastest hands in the country collectively. Stevie Mitchell is so good. Chase Ross is so good. And those 2 guys can just shut down any perimeter scoring that you need, right? That you have on the opponent, right? I worry about them on the interior a little bit. I like Ben Gold, but I don't really like him as a starting center. Like as we progress deeper into the tournament, I just think he'll struggle a little bit with rebounding and finishing on the interior, even though I think he's played his heart out this year. And then Joplin is very hit and miss, and I'm not sure if Marquette has a secondary scorer that I fully trust. But I think overall, Cam Jones is one of the best players in the sport. I probably rank him number 3 right now, National Player of the Year, behind Broom and Flagg. And so when you have him, I think he's a difference maker. And then when you combine that with just like the team, the culture, the defensive activity, I think they have enough to at least get to a Final Four. And then once you're there, who knows what happens. So I'll take Marquette at 9.
Love Cam Jones. Totally share the same thing on Joplin. It bothers me. Like, when there's a guy where you're like, all right, this guy is a good shooter. I don't care how, just the way his shot looks and the way the ball goes out the rim or just the consistency of the release. I just don't have any confidence in David Joplin in his shot. Their best 3-point shooter outside Cam Jones has probably been Gold. Chase Ross is shooting 40%. I really like Chase Ross. I think he's going to continue to ascend. Obviously, Stevie Mitchell is so good. My one concern with Marquette is just outside the Joplin thing is nobody else played double-digit minutes off the bench against Georgetown at home. I really liked what I saw from Royce Parham, and I've seen Lowry and Norman in flashes, but I don't know if the depth is there. I'm a little. Their ceiling is a little capped to me, but I think they're very, very good. I think them being taken. What are we at? 11 is 9 or 9, yeah, 10.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I think that makes sense. I had him 9th in my rankings, but
so did I.
I don't think they're going to win. I don't think they're a legit title contender, but I think they're very, very good.
Yeah, that's fair. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm going to go with my preseason title pick now, who has lost some close games, but the thesis still exists. It's the Gonzaga Bulldogs. You lost to West Virginia in overtime. West Virginia obviously is much better than people expected. You lost in overtime to Kentucky, which, back to Kentucky point, defensively Kentucky was incredible in the second half of that game. You lost to UConn, and you lost by 3 to UCLA when they were playing better basketball. But, a couple plays here and there in those neutral court games, and Gonzaga's like undefeated and on track for 1 seed. So that the number one knock on them is, unless they're perfect the rest of the season, they're probably not a top 2 seed, just because they didn't. Their best win is Baylor, and their second best win is, they beat San Diego State. They beat Indiana. Maybe I'm hating on the resume.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big idiot. They beat San Diego State and Baylor. So, all right, they got guys.
At end of the day, though, like, the way Mark Few has time and time again gotten his teams to ascend offensively as the season goes, they're going to be really, really, really tough to guard come tournament time. And defensively, I think they can get better. I think you have the size, and you have Battle and Ajayi give you a little bit more athleticism that they didn't really have in last year's team, I guess. Anton Watson was so good, but look, Ryan Nembhard, I wish he could shoot the 3 ball a little bit better, but his decision-making out of the pick and roll is just insane. Ike is so good. He struggles with fouling people too much, and he's just not on the floor sometimes, but when it's him in there and when Nolan Hickman's playing well, which based on last year's trajectory, I'm assuming he'll continue to ascend. You've got Battles as a microwave. He's probably the most talented player on the team. Ben Gregg, I love and wish he played more, because I think he's a really good three-point shooter, and he works really hard on the glass. Braden Huff sometimes comes in and can just give you 20. Other times, like, you can't use him. I love the top 8. They're going to make the Sweet 16. Who says they can't get hot, get a good path, and go all the way? The one thing I do know with Gonzaga is this is going to be one of the 5 best offensive teams in the country come March. As they are right now, they're ranked 4th. But, one of these years they're going to break through and win it all, and who says it couldn't be this year sneakily?
Mm-hmm. So just one thing on Gonzaga, because I had them ranked like 11, I think, on this. My one issue with them, do you know what their record is in games decided by 10 or fewer points this year?
This season?
Yeah.
0-4?
1-4. They had an 8-point win against Arizona State. I don't like being like they can't get it done in like the key moments. But like some of those games at the end, man, weird turnovers. Like if
Nembhard took a half-court shot with like 4 seconds left or something crazy against UCLA, that I was like, what are we doing?
Okay, so not to get into the weeds on that, I kind of thought that was a heads-up play from Nembhard, just because he felt the foul coming. And I thought that's a better shot than. But anyway,
Brooks Barnheiser felt the foul coming, and they didn't give it to him against freaking who was that against Butler?
Butler, yeah. But regardless, I thought that was a heads-up play. But just generally, I just think there are weird turnovers and weird decisions that I'm not sure I've seen in the Gonzaga team, so I'm hoping those just get ironed out. The problem is we're probably not going to be able to see them in another close game until maybe St. Mary's, but, who knows. Okay, so we've gone through 10. Let's speed up through these last 6. I know you got to go ball out like Jamarius Burton here. I'll take Tennessee here at 11. Not a popular time to pick Tennessee, but I just think Chaz Lanier is just like totally lit. Like, that's all I really got to say about them. I just think they're so good. The problem, obviously, I just think he's just like a stud, right? I think he is such a good shot maker, such a good three-point shooter. He relocates extremely well off the ball. And he also doesn't have to take a lot of the defensive load because you have Ziegler and Meshack in the backcourt with you, who are 2 of the better defenders in the country. My issue with Tennessee, and we saw it against Florida, Lanier did not have a good game. And that was intentional. Outside of that, you really don't have a lot of scoring options at all. Like, it's weird. Like, Tennessee will do such a good job moving the ball, but then it ends up in the corner for Meshack, who's for a wide open 3. He's not hitting that. You know what I mean? And so I really don't trust Tennessee outside of Lanier. And obviously Ziegler's like a good game manager, but I don't really think he's like an offensive engine or a star. They're going to be really good defensively, really tough to score on. But we see some of the things creeping up where you're just like, dude, come on, figure something out offensively. And it's just the same story every single year. And I don't think Lanier is as dynamic as Dalton Connect was last year. I do like Jordan Gainey off the bench, but he's very hit and miss. Igor Milicic is another hit and miss guy. I want to see more of Darlinstone Dubar. I think he came from Hofstra, that transfer. I think he could be a little bit more consistent in terms of his minutes. But yeah, Tennessee I'll take here at 11, even though I'm not like thrilled about it. I think this is where kind of like the teams drop off a little bit. But yeah, the defense is good for something, and then I like Lanier. So
I like Lanier too. I'm just kind of bored of them. Like, they're going to win by 20 in the first and second round, and And I don't know. I'm just kind of bored of them. It's a vibes thing. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's like with Zakai Zeigler there. I don't know. I just think it's capped unless Lanier goes just God mode, and he's really, really good and fun to watch. While I should take Kansas, I don't want to take Kansas. I'm gonna get a little gritty here and take my sleeper pick, St. John's. Why not?
Dude, no way. They were on my board, man. Yeah, good pick.
Why not? They're 6th in KenPom defense. They're getting better and better. Kadari Richmond still hasn't really gotten going yet. I love Davon Smith. I've loved him since Georgia Tech. I loved him last year at Utah. Zuby Ejiofor has been playing out of his mind. RJ Lewis continues to get better. Aaron Scott is a really good shooter, plays hard. Patino's talked about how athletic this team is. You're seeing that defensively. They are an awful three-point shooting team. They're shooting sub 30%. But Scott can shoot it. Wilcher can shoot it. Davon Smith can shoot it. The Brady Dunlap getting hurts. And then what's his face? The Jaden Glover. He hurt his hand or something. He was the freshman. Yeah. So I mean, there might be a little bit of a cap, but it's very Louisville to me. Like they're pressuring you. They're crashing the offensive glass. It's funny seeing some of these older coaches I've already ragged on Cal once, and I was going to rag on Izzo, but Michigan State's actually playing really well now. I don't know if you're going to take him, but
I'm not going to take him, but I respect them. Yeah.
Patino, I don't know. He still got it. He still got it. And I think he probably wishes he had more 3-point shooting, but this team has dogs, man. Even if Kadari Richmond isn't the star that he's being paid to be, he's still a guy that at the end of games, I like having the ball in his hands. He won so many games for Seton Hall last year. This team's just got dogs, and I think they're the type of team that, shots start falling, in the tournament, and you've got a dominant interior presence, you rebound the shit out of the ball, and you've got Davon Smith and Kadari Richmond who have been around the block and are really good guards. I'm in on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. 2 quick things on St. John's. One, so I believe there were oh, wait, never mind. Okay, so basically, Davon Smith and Kadari Richmond were two of maybe 6 guys in the country to average 14 points, 5 assists, and 5 rebounds a game last year. So they're both very good at just kind of doing whatever it takes to win. Second thing, they're just catastrophically long defensively. They just block the shit out of everybody. And I guess third thing, I'm pretty sure in the last 15 years, there's only been one national champion who shot under 35% from 3, and it was 2013 Louisville, who was coached by, of course, Rick Pitino. So that's something to monitor, right? Okay, so St. John's, I'm going to
Wait, tiny note. They've lost 3 games this year by a total margin of 5 points.
That is crazy. Yeah, okay. All right. Next up, I'm going to take, okay, so I'll go Michigan here. I like Michigan a lot. I think the Vlad Golban, Danny Wolf PNR is just ridiculous. Danny Wolf is so good. The fact that a guy like Danny Wolf is now being talked about as a lock first-round pick is just ridiculous. He's so good at doing all these types of things. He moves like a guard. He can hit threes out of ball screens like nothing. Gets to the rim, really intuitive passer. And then obviously Vlad Golban is right there finishing everything around the rim, right? I think he just had a 36-point game recently. And so you have those 2 guys that can kind of just crash the interior, but then also add without taking away the perimeter skill needed to play modern basketball, which is what Dusty May wants to do. I'm lukewarm on their guards. I think Trey Donaldson's a very solid player. Roddy Gale's been hit or miss for me. But really it just comes down to Danny Wolf and Vlad Golban. I just think that's such a hard thing to stop. I forget what game it was it was early Big Ten play Wisconsin. Just they had no clue how to stop that, right? And so they just kept spamming it over and over again, and they just won. So I like them a lot. I think they're not a favorite to win a national championship, but I think they could definitely make a run behind those 2 guys. And obviously, Dusty May's been there before, done that, So
my one note on Michigan, Greg Waddell, the Michigan fan, had a great Michigan tweet. He said, this is when they were playing UCLA. My center has 20 points with 3 minutes left in the first half on 9 of 10 shooting, and he's very clearly not even the best center on my team. I thought that was such
so ridiculous.
They're the number one. They're number 1 in 2-point field goal percentage, and I just love Dusty May versus. I tweeted this. Dusty May versus Mick Cronin is the old guard versus the new guard. Dusty May is Mr. Chill, Mr. Optimistic. Go have fun, go play and flow. Mick Cronin is, if you do something wrong 20 seconds into the game, he's going to bring you over and scream at you. And I don't know, the world's changing. The kids are changing. Some guys, shout out Patino, are evolving with the times. There's other old coaches like Rick Barnes. They're guys that making it work and can relate to the guys still. But Dusty May, I think he's going to be a star coach in college basketball for a long time. The fact that he went from playing a 4 guards out kind of style to like, this is who we've got. Like, we're going to adapt to that style. I agree. My concern is Gale. Trey Donaldson has been much better than I expected him to be, though.
Yeah.
So I'm impressed by him. Michigan's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
Is this my last team?
You got 2 more.
All right. I'll do them. I'll just say the 3 teams I have and just give a quick thing.
Okay.
I don't want to. Sure. Wait. You know what? I'll take Kansas reluctantly. They're defending their asses off right now. I don't like what Bill Self is doing to my boy Rylan Griffin. He was one of my favorite players in college basketball last year. You need 3-point shooting. He's defending well enough. He's not. Shaquille Moore is like a really good defender. So if you want to throw Shaquille Moore out there with KJ Adams, DeJuan Harris, and Dickinson, fine. But like, I don't know. They're not as. I love Zeke Mayo. I just don't know what the ceiling is. Like, the AJ Storr thing is weird to me. It seems like I don't like to. I mean, I kind of psychoanalyze some of these situations where I don't know all the information, but it's like, you fucked up so bad with Timberlake and like El Marco last year, like, and just lucked out that Johnny Furphy was as good as he was. But like, I think this year was, let me just get everyone. Like, they almost had Riley Kugel too. He's like, let me just get everyone. Like, at first when I saw Shaquille Moore was there and he was hurt preseason, I'm like, why the hell do you need Shaquille Moore? He's never going to play. And like, shit, I guess Shaquille Moore is playing, but like, the AJ Storr thing, it's just weird to me that this guy's making a lot of money and clearly doesn't fit with what you're trying to do. I just don't like the juju with that. And as much as I like KJ Adams and DeJuan Harris as players and winners and stuff, like, I just don't know how it's all fitting together. If they're going to hold everyone to under 50 points like they've done the last few games, like, they're clearly a legit team. And like I said, I love Zeke Mayo, and I want Ryland to get out there more, but just don't know how vibe check. I'm just not feeling it with Kansas right now. I was feeling it more with Kansas last year just because there was so much intention to what they were doing. They were so amazingly well coached last year because Bill Self had no other option. Like, I kind of liked Kansas last year. I was like, this team could be sneaky if they're healthy in the tournament. So I don't know.
Yeah, Kansas. I'm not a huge Kansas guy this year. I thought they were, I mean, just like generally, and also in an effort to get all those guys there, you know, who decommitted and went to Alabama and is now playing a very key role for them, LeBaron Philon, right? So it's just kind of like one of those things. Yeah,
I forgot that.
It's like that's everything. It's just like it felt like talent accumulation just for the just as a 2K thing, and I just don't really think they've shown any sense of offensive cohesion, and that worries me. Okay, last pick here. I'll make it quick. I'm going with Texas Tech. Love what they're doing offensively. They should have beaten Iowa State last Saturday. I'm a huge fan of JT Toppin, just one of the most dominant offensive rebounders I've seen. In addition to him, you got Chance McMillan, really good shooter. Darion Williams, who I expect to shoot a little bit better as the season progresses. Elijah Hawkins, I think, is starting to figure out like a better balance of scoring and passing. I think in order to be a starting level point guard in high level college basketball, you need to be able to have some level of scoring willingness, which I thought he lacked earlier in the year, but then now he's starting to pick it up a little bit, and he's just one of the better passers. Christian Anderson is a freshman guard who's come on really strong. I like Kevin Overton, the Drake transfer. I think he'll start shooting it a little bit better, but he's just another guy who always seems to get to his spots and, you know, find ways to get easy looks. And yeah, so I really like this Texas Tech team. They were in my Final Four preseason. I just think they have a ton of shooters, a ton of talent, really good depth, and that's even with guys that I wasn't even expecting to contribute this year, like Christian Anderson, right? And so they started off kind of slow. I think they're starting to get better now, and I don't think anybody would want to see them in the tournament. So they'll be my last pick at 8.
That's why I wanted to take them over Kansas. I didn't want to take Kansas. I want Texas Tech. We're on the exact same page. Christian Anderson is a freaking bucket off the bench, and I love Chance McMillan too. He had a crazy putback last game too, and I mean, they're 1 through 8. I don't see any weaknesses in that team, and they're still outside the top 50 in KenPom defense, and that's what Grant McCasland does. So who says they can't elevate defensively? They're a great shooting team, top 10 offense. They got pro talent in top, and Darian Williams is a nightmare to guard for a lot of teams. Huge fan of Texas Tech. I literally had 15 teams written down, and this is the one team I had that hasn't been taken yet. It's UConn. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but I might as well. There's no one else at the top of this. Purdue, Michigan State, Baylor, Mississippi State, Maryland, Wisconsin. Those are the next teams. Oregon. I don't know. At the end of the day, with UConn, they're a top 10 offense right now, and they're abysmal defensively. They're 112th in KenPom defense. They're number 5 in offense. And if Mahaney can start playing better, if some of these freshmen or sophomores and Noel and Ross can come along a bit, I'm just surprised that this is the way the team's taking. But a quick UConn thing, they are teams are shooting 38% from deep against them this year. That's one of the they're literally the most unlucky team. They're due for some regression. And Dan Hurley's such a psycho, and they've only lost once since the turn in November. I don't see why UConn can't continue to get better and better and better. Obviously we knew that from a talent perspective, they were a little overrated at the beginning of the season. Yeah. They got their asses handed to them in Maui, but it's still Danny Hurley. He's still the king of the sport until someone else wins the title for sure. And who says they can't get better?
Yeah, I like that pick. They weren't on I had 17 teams listed here. They were not on mine, but they would have been like 18. Highest ranked team I didn't take that left for me is Purdue at 14. I won't harp on that, but that was just like the team I had. But yeah, okay, so just to recap really quick, Christian, you took Duke, Alabama, or actually no, I'll go in order of what we did. Okay, so number 1, Auburn from me, and then Christian, Duke 2, then Iowa State 3, Bama 4, Houston 5, Florida 6, Illinois 7, Kentucky 8, Marquette 9, Gonzaga 10, Tennessee 11, St. John's 12, Michigan 13, Kansas 14, Texas Tech 15, and UConn 16. Yeah, I thought this went very well. It's 7 o'clock, so I know you got to go. Christian, thank you.
Got to go score 4 points.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Do whatever it takes to win. That's what Jamarius Burton would do. All right, Christian, thanks so much. I will talk to you soon, obviously. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Go follow Christian on X at OdjHoops. And you can follow me as you're there too, at BobbyDouglas21. But whatever. Yeah, Christian, thanks so much again, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks, Bobby.